Each game is decided by goals, all of which have been scored by shooting of some kind. The ability of a player to shoot is an asset to any football team. But much more than this is the attitude of the player to take shots during the course of the game. Too often we have found that players tend not to take a shot rather than to take as many shots as possible with the hope of hitting 30% right. Perfect art of shooting, two factors are important. One is the point of contact on the ball, and two, the proper fluent foot swing. If the ball is struck below the center line, it means that it will create lift and the shot would be inaccurate. If it is struck at the top of the center line, then it would lose power and the player would not derive the benefit that he wanted to put into the shot. So therefore, it is essential that the ball is struck through the middle. So therefore, the player can get sufficient power to take it in the direction that he wants it to go. Secondly, it is the case of the foot swing. The foot swing is very important in that the foot must be swinging at its fastest when it's about to make contact with the ball. The instep must be perpendicular through the ground, and the swing of the foot must be taken straight through the line of the ball in order to derive proper direction. Players shooting on the move must make sure that they hit through the middle line of the ball and the foot swing is in line with the right direction. Composure at the point of contact will increase accuracy. Angle shooting like these should see the emphasis on clinical accuracy rather than speed. A good habit is to aim at the far post so that even a missed hit will find its mark. Quick turning to shoot has the highest result of success for scoring goals. It creates the element of surprise and usually finds the goalkeeper unprepared. The shoulder must precede the swing of the leg so as to achieve accuracy. This exercise is the presence of opposition, so the player taking the shot will have to take it under pressure. Make an accurate pass, then speed into the moving ball for a shot, a really realistic situation. This kick is simply learned by this exercise, with the player hitting through the central line of the ball through the air. A more advanced kick will be to throw the ball over the shoulder and make the volley kick after the first bounce. A steady head is the key factor. Invariably, volleys show themselves from cross balls, and this exercise from both sides of the field will increase the percentage of success. heading is very important to the game of football. But unfortunately, players tend not to want to use their head as often as they should. Because of this, there is an absolute problem with the ball that's played in the air. The asset of a good header of the ball is that he would create glorious opportunities, particularly in front of the opponent's goal, and again in midfield to assist his fellow players. A close look at this exercise will show that the action must start from the lower back, with the neck muscle firmly fixed, so that contact with the ball on the forehead will be supported by great muscle power. The eyes must be kept open and the teeth clenched. The development of controlled heading could mean the better use of the head for lay-on passes, collection, and scoring goals. Very good practice is to keep the ball on the forehead for long periods in order to develop a proper feel and a sense of value for heading. Attacking headers should be made by hitting the ball above the central line so that it will hit the target. Invariably, the attacking player has to run onto the ball, so he must ensure that he gets above the line of flight and head the ball downward. Sometimes the power of the header can depend mainly on the speed of the ball. Flick heading will deceive many keepers and defenders around the goal area and could cause many defenses to make simple errors. This type of header usually causes the opponents to take up the wrong line when jumping. Defensive heading has three key factors. The player must aim for height, width, and distance. After making sure that he approaches the ball to make contact at the highest point, he must put these factors into play. Leaving the ground should always be a special art for the defender, and the presence of opposition must not disturb his function. It is worth remembering that pushing off one foot will assist in making more height for the defender. Here are some good demonstrations of defensive headers. Note the player's pivot from the hip and complete swing when making contact with the ball in the air. It is also very important that the defender must keep his eyes firmly on the ball and must not be distracted by any defender or even his own players. The goalkeeper is easily the most important person in any football team. The reason for this is obvious, because if a goalkeeper makes a mistake, it results in a goal. The good type of goalkeeper is the one who makes the fewer mistakes in the course of the game. Many goalkeepers tend to lay emphasis on flying around the goal from side to side and making spectacular saves. But the great goalkeeper is the goalkeeper who is prepared to make the fewest mistakes possible in the field of play.
Goalkeepers need a different type of exercise from other players. Their ability to be as flexible as possible will assist them in doing their duty. They must have the strength to throw themselves around quickly. This exercise will help the keeper to get his body behind the ball swiftly and make early decisions as to when to catch and when to punch. Indecision very often results in mistakes and goals. The goalkeeper must be on the alert at all times. When the keeper becomes the sole defender, he must be prepared to narrow the scoring angle by advancing towards the player with the ball and try to win the ball by forming a long barrier with his body across the player's path. His movement forward must depend on the position of the ball. High crosses create problems for most keepers, especially when there are attackers around. Whatever the situation, the keeper must take the ball at the highest point, ensure that his hands and body are well behind the line of flight, and under no circumstance should his eyes stray off the ball. Note the hands of the keeper when taking high crosses. Shot stopping calls for quick decision and superb agility, together with sensible covering. Decisions to catch and to push must be made early and effectively. It's not always the most acrobatic keeper who saves the day, but the one making the least mistakes. Some astute demonstrations of a keeper getting behind the line of the ball. Good distribution can create methodical build-up and should be a main weapon in a keeper's armory. Apart from normal kickouts, there are three types of services. The rollout service, like this one, used to find an unmarked player a short distance away. A javelin type service to make distance at a low trajectory. And the overhead throw to clear the heads of opponents and find a distant player.
The swerve kick is important for two reasons. Firstly, it replaces two passes on the field. In other words, whereby a player would have to use another player to find a different point. In this case, the ball can be swerved around an opponent to find a point that was not there before. Secondly, it's the type of kick that can deceive a goalkeeper if taken properly. And these are really the two main assets of swerve kicking.
If the ball is to swerve from left to right, then the player must strike the left side of the ball. They then spin clockwise on contact and eventually they are right. If it's hit on the right side, then the reverse will occur and the ball will spin towards the left. Swerve kicks are most effectively done when the ball is standing still. Well-executed kicks of this type can result in spectacular goals. The movement is similar to a normal shot, except that only part of the ball is struck. The follow-through must be overemphasized so that the maximum power is gained. In-swing corners will cause discomfort to goalkeepers and should be aimed at curling just beneath the crossbar. The outswing corner should fall just past the penalty spot. These kicks will encourage the keeper to leave the goal line and sometimes fail to reach the ball before an attacker. Penalties should be certain goals, but many players seem unsure as to what they will do when they stand behind a penalty. The player must decide where he will kick the ball, choose the spot of contact on the ball, and hit it hard and accurately. These demonstrations have shown the results of this approach. In all dot ball situations, the kick must be accurate, a result which can only be derived at by constant practice.
I do hope that these demonstrations have been helpful to you. Remember, there is no substitute for hard work in football. It is true to say that football is a team game, but before any team can achieve a high standard of play, it is important that each individual displays the basic techniques of the game at a high level. Before a player goes onto the field of play, it is important that he thinks seriously about two aspects. One, the equipment that he wears. It is so essential that a player uses the right type of equipment for the right conditions under which he has to play. Secondly, his physical fitness. a department which is so important in the life of a footballer.
Players must ensure that the equipment used must be adequate. The shirt and shorts must not fit too tightly, and they must be void of sharp edges, such as buttons and buckles. The elastic must be loose enough in order to allow proper breathing. The legs of the short should be wide enough to allow for free movement. The socks should be held by a tie-up string, which should be as tight as to keep the socks up, but loose enough to allow for regular blood circulation and muscular movement in the calves. The knot should be tucked neatly away behind the leg so that the ball will not readily strike against it to cause pain. A shin guard will not stop a broken leg, but it will avoid any abrasion which is usually caused by casual clashes of the shins with boots or other players' shins. This piece of gear is highly recommended. The boot must be firmly laced, and the tying of the knot should be restricted to either the back or around the outer ankle, so that constant driving of the ball on the instep will be without the possibility of heavy jarring. The use of Vaseline on the forehead will channel the perspiration which comes from the top of the head, down the sides of the face, and not in the eyes as would normally occur. Even the heels and toes could be saved from blisters by placing some Vaseline in these areas of the boots. The main reason for being physically fit is to increase muscular strength, develop stamina in order to offset fatigue. Another abdominal exercise with a greater workload on the lower back region. This exercise, together with strengthening the abdominal muscles of the moving player, will strengthen the arms of the player on the ground. In order to strengthen the back and shoulder muscles, a constant repetition of this exercise is useful. Without using weights, players can strengthen thigh and calf muscles and also the knees and ankles with this type of exercise. This jump from a static position will assist players in handling high balls adequately. It could replace weight training where gym facilities are unavailable. Very often, an extra effort is necessary to win the ball. This exercise can develop agility and strength. Exercising can be fun when done properly.
Collecting the ball demands a great degree of concentration, as invariably the player is under tremendous pressure when doing so. In order to collect the ball properly, there are a few things that are completely essential. 1. The player must put the line of the ball up very quickly. 2. He must decide in his mind the area of surface for which he is going to use. 3. He must relax that surface thoroughly. And lastly, he must try to make contact with the ball as close to himself as possible so that he can have proper vision right through the line of it.
Players must learn to collect the ball with various parts of the body. When doing this, the relaxing and withdrawing of the surface must be exercised. The eyes must be kept firmly on the ball, and the choice of the surface must be made quickly, depending on the trajectory of the ball. It is possible to use any part of the body for collecting, but the head should not be attempted unless the player has sufficient room. When collecting with the sole of the foot, it is important that the angle of the foot will disallow the ball from going beneath. The player here demonstrates that picking up the line of the ball makes the collection much easier. When collecting on the turn, it is worth remembering that collection is first, turning is after. Note the complete relaxation of the controlling surface of the player. No well-collected ball must be outside of playing range. This exercise is designed to help the player to choose the right type of collection for the different types of surfaces. His decisions must be made quickly as to the surface to be used. Position will help him to be more precise when performing the technique under pressure.
in order to improve ball control and traveling, it is important that the player learns the use of various parts of his legs, the outside of his foot, the inside of his foot, his instep, beneath his legs, and his heels. The reason for this is obviously that the player must get accustomed to getting the feel of the ball on various parts of his feet. Now, what is more important in ball control is the fact that the player must be able to relax any surface in his body with consummate ease, because this is so essential for killing the pace of the ball when he's about to collect it.
All great players can control the ball and at the same time see the movements of their fellow players around. This exercise will ensure headlift from players when in control and will also help them to master the use of various parts of the foot to maintain control. Movement backward, forward and sideways is an asset on the field, while change of speed could be regulated in an exercise of this nature. It is wise to develop the proper use of each part of the foot individually. The sole of the foot is under scrutiny here, and at once one can recognize deception in the movement of players' feet and speed of the ball. A sense of touch can be gained in this exercise, which can be used in another area of the game, such as dribbling. Traveling with the ball played with the inside of the feet will stimulate quicker movement forward, as the player will be operating when in stride without interruption. Screening is another super technique which will need consistent practice. But as shown here, the important factors are the position of the ball and the position of the player. The opponent must be made to be on one side of the player, the ball is controlled on the other side. In this way, it is almost impossible for the opponent to make contact with the ball.
everybody wants to be a Pele or Eusebio when it comes to the art of dribbling. And who can blame them when it's definitely one of the more glamorous techniques of the game of football? Unfortunately, every player is not endowed with the ability to dribble. First, he must be well coordinated. And secondly, he must be quick-footed and he must be able to think very quickly indeed. A dribbler is an asset to any football team, particularly in the attacking third of the field, whereby a player can go past one or two and definitely create good goal-scoring opportunities.
The practice of dribbling could be done initially by static opposition, so that the player can change the direction and speed of his run when in possession of the ball. Pushing the ball through small spaces and over high objects will help to improve the skill. Players can work this exercise on the circuit against time in order to measure the success of their skill. A close look at this exercise will show that each player has the responsibility to keep possession of his ball and at the same time try to knock the other player's balls out of the restricted area. Again, quick movement, change of pace and direction are essential. This is also a very enjoyable form of training. The movement of a cross-foot dribble must be quick and genuine. Back heel. Use of heel to reverse direction. Body swerve, change of pace and direction. An observation of space between opponent's legs.
Whenever a team loses possession of the ball, at once each player in that team becomes a defender. This is the reason why it is so important that each player learns the art of tackling. When one goes into the tackle, he must be sure that his balance is on the right foot in the point of tackling, and he must also be sure that he does not go in to sell himself to the player with the ball. In the other circumstance, it is said that good players don't tackle, but invariably good players are caught in bad positions and a tackle becomes the necessary thing.
Slide tackling should only be used as a last resort, and players must make contact with the ball at all times during this tackle. A normal tackle will see the player swinging through the line of the ball with body weight fully forward. On connection with the ball, the winner of the tackle is the one who can perform the skill of rolling the ball over the opponent's tackling leg as shown in picture.